time you and sent also would like to say anything?
Oh no, we're great. Everybody's happy. Let's move on.
All right. This is rock and roll. All right, here we go. DECD. I must say this though. I think Representative Dillon.
So can they go down to glacial?
Someone needs to mute, please. A lot of the information we got this morning, so it was almost impossible to digest. So just to let everyone know that we're probably going to meet with some agencies more than once, especially DECD. But without any further ado, let's get it started. And who's up? With DECD rather.
Good morning. Morning. My name's Alexandra. I'm the Commissioner at DECD. Representative Gibson, would you like me to get started?
Yes, please.
Who is that? There's somebody there that is not muted. There we go. Thank you.
That's right. Alrighty, good morning. Well, yes, you're right, Representative, that we did send over our follow-up material this morning, understanding that there's a lot to go through there and not expecting anyone had memorized it all by now. So what would be helpful, just question to the chairs, what would be most helpful? Would you like me to go through that document and kind of explain what was provided? I'm happy to share the screen if that's helpful.
Yes, if you can do that, please.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Jennifer, you're not muted. Alrighty. Can everyone see? I'll make it bigger, but can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we are gonna start at the beginning, and please stop me if it's too little or too much detail. I will go pretty quickly given that we only have 45 minutes. But so to start off with, last week the committee asked.
Yeah, that's also the same possibility of finding.
Jennifer, you're going to sign off if you can't stay on mute. Thank you.
Please tell HDAGI to keep themselves mute because they keep breaking in. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I'll walk down the hall and turn it off if I have to, Representative. Alrighty. So jumping back in, again, you can all see this. You're looking at a Word document with red writing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're starting off with one of the main questions was around the status of grants and the status of tourism grants and carry forward grants. So that was where we started the conversation last time. Representative Walker, I think you specifically asked about this. We provided in the materials that were sent a spreadsheet that gives a detailed status for every one of the grants. So it tells you on January 23rd, we had an exchange with the applicant. So I don't think there's dozens of those, so we won't go through those now, but if there's any more information that the committee would like, or a different format that the committee would like to see, we're open to feedback on the format. This document, the one that that is named here, is provided to the Appropriations Committee monthly. So this is information that you can continue to review as the months go by to see if there's a particular grant that you care about. You can track how that is progressing, and of course, feel free to reach out to us if it's not progressing, and we can explain exactly why and talk about and you can help us possibly troubleshoot whatever that issue is. Any questions on the grants, or I can move forward from here.
Any members have questions?
So,
one second. I see Senator Summers with her hand up. Senator Summers.
Yes, I have some questions on the grant for Amistad. So I would like to maybe follow up with you after. There seems to be multiple grants for that particular organization, totaling close to $700,000 if I totaled it correctly. So I'd like to follow up with more detail on that particular grant.
Okay, great. We can be in touch about all the grants for that particular organization.
Thank you.
Actually, can you provide that to the whole membership?
Sure, yes. So moving on the Small Business Boost Fund, there were questions just around explaining the process. I'm going to do this at a very high level. We also have our Director of Small Business on the line, and I should have mentioned there's a host of DECD folks on the line that are going to be here for any detailed questions, but I'll give a pass at it at first. For the Connecticut Boost Fund, just to discuss the process, and we went through it in detail, but the basic process is an applicant applies to the fund. The process to apply is extremely easy and straightforward, and we'd be very happy to give a demo to the committee at any point. It's really user-friendly and designed for folks that are not, you don't have to be super sophisticated to fill out the initial application. It's a very easy user flow. They fill out the application. They are matched with usually 2 or 3 lenders that are where there's a match between what the lender is looking for and what the business is looking for. Some of those factors are around how much money they might be looking for, the credit score of the borrower. So there's a match once all the information is collected by the system. The borrower then gets to look at the different lenders that they matched with, select a lender. And then once they've selected a lender, the lender is notified, and the borrower and the lender start to talk directly, doing some diligence around collecting financial information, collecting business information, collecting everything that the lender needs to do due diligence to make a decision on whether or not they're going to be able to make that loan. If the loan is made, great. They go through the closing process, the disbursement of funds. If not, if for some reason the applicant doesn't meet all the due diligence requirements, they are sent into a technical assistance option, which means that no one's just getting kind of turned away cold and with no help. If there's a reason they're turned away for a loan, they're getting matched with another community organization that is helping them to figure out why they got turned away. How can they improve their application for the next time, and other assistance that they may need with their small business. I'm going to leave it there. We did provide also, we have a report that has all the businesses that Boost is, a summary of the loans that Boost has made in terms of what types of entrepreneurs those are, by demographics, by location, which CDFIs and lenders are making the loans. There's a lot of detail behind the loans that have been made to date, but that's the process at a high level, which was the question that we got specifically. I'll pause there. Any questions on Boost? Otherwise, we'll move to the next question. All righty. All set, Representative?
We all set. You good, Tim? Thank you.
The next topic the next follow-up question was around women and minority businesses and how DECD is helping this segment of the industry. And we have a variety of programs here. Again, I'll stay high level, but we have details on all of these that we can provide as follow-up. One, we're working with the Women's Business Development Council on an equity match grant program. So this is a program not for loans, unlike Boost, but for actually providing equity to businesses right up front, women-owned businesses, to help get off the ground. And DECD puts in some funds along with private funders as well. We also have the Minority Business Initiative Advisory Board, which is a group that's made up of business community members, minority business leaders, and they are tasked with making sure that minority businesses are thriving, A, and B, taking best advantage of DECD programs. And that's been the board's been in place for many years, and is the goal, specifically the goal is to get at this question of how to support minority businesses. We also support financially many community organizations whose mission is to support women and minority businesses, including the Spanish American Merchants Association and HEDCO, and the Black Business Alliance, just to name a few. Lastly, we provide support to the Entrepreneurial Center and Women's Business Center, which is at the University of Hartford. and that's goal there is obviously to foster women-owned businesses. So this is a example. We do more, but this is a good sample of the programming and the funding that we put out there to support women and minority businesses. Any questions on this, Fred?
Yes, I see Senator Hartley has a question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Madam Commissioner, thanks for going through this with us. Yeah, I have a question about women in business, that is the Women's Business Development Center. There was a change indicated with the funding from the Comptroller's Office to DECD. So that's just a net because it existed previously. But my question is, was there or wasn't there an additional line item for the Women's Business Development?
In what fiscal year are you referring to?
Well, it wasn't in the last fiscal year. It was in, I believe, the previous one.
Yeah, I can chime in here if that's helpful.
Go ahead, Kyle. Yes, thank you.
Hey, Senator, this is Kyle Abercrombie, Director of Government Affairs at DHB. There were some, hey, Senator, there was some pandemic relief ARPA dollars for WBDC, I believe, but we can get you the exact dollar amounts and the sources of funding from the past budget.
Yeah, no, I know there were ARPA dollars because it was basically that competitive process where Women's Business Development was given, we're one of the awardees. No, I'm referring to something other than that.
I could just add, I think I can put some light on this. Was this the funding that CI received?
Yeah, I'm sorry for talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sheila Hummel, the Director of Small Business and Community Development. Hi, Senator. I think you're referring to the money that WBDC received from CI.
Yes. What was it, 300? What was that?
It was, I believe it was 300,000, and then it was transferred over to CT Next. And I know the organization's been working with CT Next. But one thing I do want to mention is WBDC has received a grant close to $9 million for small business support over 5 years.
Yes, I'm aware.
Okay.
Okay, so what do you mean working with CT Next?
We'll come back to you with the details on how that's being implemented and how those 300,000 are being rolled out through CT Next.
All right, so you don't have the information right now, okay?
On this specific WBDC funding now, we'll get back to you on how they're rolling that out.
That needs to come to the whole committee.
Sorry, we will send everything to everyone. If I seem to suggest otherwise, I apologize.
Thank you.
Any more questions on this women and minority business question? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next topic.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Great. So the next question was around the tourism fund. Question was how much is dedicated to tourism specifically, and the governor's budget includes 4.5 million in each fiscal year for statewide marketing. That's an umbrella fund, and typically within there we spend 85% of that on tourism and 15% of that on economic development marketing. So that would be the projected breakdown of that 4.5 for each of the next 2 fiscal years as well. Any questions on that front?
I'm sorry, it's 4.5 million, and of the 4.5 million, 400 is for marketing, and the 4.1 it goes back to the tourism team, correct?
So 15% of 15% goes to economic development marketing, and so that works out to 675,000 for economic development work, economic development marketing, and then the balance of it is for tourism. So the 85% of 4.5 is for tourism funding.
Can you tell us of the 4.5, is that a contract to someone?
The 4.5 is broken.
Not the 4. I'm sorry. The 15%, is that a contract to someone?
No, that's there are multiple activities that are comprised that make up that 15% of the 4.5. For right now, one of the activities that we're focused on with that economic development funding is a rebranding effort for the state. And so that would be an example of an activity that would be used for the economic development marketing. And that's as opposed to a tourism campaign, this would be rebranding the state as we market ourselves to businesses, as we market ourselves to potential residents. So it's less specific than tourism. It's actually just marketing the state in general.
Don't we have a line in your budget now for marketing too?
This is encompassed. Traditionally, it has always been encompassed in the statewide marketing number, and that convention is continuing from fiscal 23 into 24 and 25. You see it.
I got that. But doesn't DECD have a marketing fund?
Not separate from the statewide marketing budget. The statewide marketing budget is where our marketing dollars, whether they be for tourism or for economic development, are housed within that statewide marketing line.
Okay. Could you send us where the 15% is going and how long it's been going on? Because we increased the marketing budget for DECD because we felt that you needed more money. I don't think this was meant to stay as a feeder in that still. So that's why I'd like to see we'd like to see what that is. So go ahead, you can go on to the next one. Thank you.
Yeah, we can do a breakdown of what the 15% is spent
on. And just
excuse me. Thank you, Ms. Commissioner. We do have two hands up. I see Senator Olson, followed by Representative Dillon.
Thank you. Relative to the tourism fund, can you send us a whole breakout of where the 4.5 million? We have been working to try to build that up for actual statewide marketing, not for economic development marketing, but actual statewide marketing. And so I think that the intent of this was not to be spent on DECD marketing for economic development. We wanted to do statewide marketing. As we know, every other state around us is outspending us on statewide marketing. And 4.5 million does not allow us to, even at 4.5 million, if we got all of that, that does not allow us to market ourselves and our businesses in Pennsylvania and New York or Canada. All that 4.5 million does is give us a little bit of money to do some Facebook ads. That is really not something that we have been looking at. And when we have been putting the money in, we were putting the money in for statewide marketing, not for economic development marketing. So if you could send over to us the entirely where all of this money is going, broken out by each individual line item. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good morning, Commissioner. Thank you for meeting with us. I have a lot of questions that we won't deal with here, and we can talk about offline. But on this specific presentation, I would appreciate a little bit more information later on the branding effort, because the branding issues out of the state over time, and it was before your time, sometimes were a little bit unfortunate, and I want to understand where the agency is going with that branding effort, if you would. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Representative. Thank you so much.
Quick clarification, Representative Gibson.
Yes, Commissioner.
Quick clarification on the, I think I may have made the economic development funding sound too specific, as if it is designed to be just DECD marketing or something of that nature. That is certainly funding that is used for an effort to advertise to market the whole state. It's just that it has a slightly different audience. It's not tourists as the audience. It's the general public who may want to move here, live here, start a business here. It's for sort of the reputation of the state more broadly, as opposed to the reputation of the state as a place to come visit for the weekend. So we see those two efforts as very much hand in hand, and both of them are intended to boost the profile of the entire state and not anything specific to our agency's activities, just to clarify. And yes, to both Senator Austin and Representative Dillon, we will get you the detail on both of those elements that you asked for.
Commissioner, would you happen, I mean, this is a simple question I'm about to ask you. Would you happen to be able to provide us with what is actually tourism? I mean, is it advertising our state parks? Is it parades? And also, what are the things that DEC does versus the thing the governor does? Do you have that listed out or no?
Sure. So I have in front of me, and we will provide this as well, a breakdown of the things that we're going to buy with that $9 million. That's 4.5 over 2 years. The things that we are going to buy, and apologies for sort of the industry jargon, but the biggest bucket that we spend that on is paid media and fees. So that's paying for the ability to advertise on billboards or on TV or on the back of JetBlue flights, which is one thing that we've done recently. So we're buying media space. That's the biggest bucket there. Second bucket is creative and production. So that's creating assets that, again, industry jargon, but creating the video content, the photo content, the campaigns that are painting Connecticut in a favorable light and that are going to go on those billboards, et cetera. Then there's the smaller categories that are also included there are attending trade shows and conferences, PR, so trying to place ourselves in newspapers and in magazines, social content and influencers, our own website, the CT Visit website, and then special events and research. So and we can provide you with how much is in each of those categories, but that should give you a sense of the activities and the things that we're buying with our dollars.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions on tourism?
Don't see any, Commissioner.
Great. So I'm the next question is around social equity, and I'm going to stay at a very high level here, and the Executive Director of the Social Equity Council, Jenny Ray, is here for any follow-up questions. But just to, and there's a lot of detail provided in the email that you received this morning. At a very high level, we just wanted to highlight how much was spent. I'm sorry for scrolling here. We wanted to highlight how much was spent in fiscal 22. That number was $429,000. In fiscal 23, so far we have spent 1.6 million. And then in fiscal 24 and 25, you know in the proposed budget that it's 5.8 million in fiscal 24 and 10.2 in fiscal 25 are the proposed spending. Those are the proposed dollar amounts for the Social Equity Council. That takes you from fiscal 22 all the way to fiscal 25. And again, we can jump into any detail that folks want to see. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the money that you highlighted. The 429 and the 1.6, that's coming out of the cannabis regulatory investment account. Is that correct?
I'm gonna let Jenny Ray jump in there.
Hi, Jenny.
Good morning. I'm Jenny Ray, Party Executive Director of Social Equity. The 429 came out of the 5.
I can't hear you.
Jenny Ray, you're quite quiet.
Oh. Can you hear me better?
And a little bit louder. You need to come a little bit louder, closer to the mic, or turn the mic up on your computer.
Is that better?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a AirPods on too, so I don't know what the story is in a different way. Better?
Well, go ahead. Let's try.
Okay. Let me try. Is this a better sound?
Yeah, I guess. Okay.
All right, I'm sorry. How about that?
Better?
Okay. So the 429 that is mentioned actually came from the 5 million that was loaned to the cannabis effort for the social equity council to stand up, and 1.6 is from cannabis revenue. These are not non-lapsing funds in the social equity account.
I can't hear you, but I think what you just said was that the 429 and the other amount was the 4.6 came from the 5 million that was given to the equity fund last year for operation purposes, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the money that was gathered from the equity fund, that was licensing fees, conversion fees, cannabis tax, sales tax, all that. Where is that money?
That money is comes to us. That money goes to, I believe, OPR.
It goes to what? I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Here, please. I'm asking my accountant to eat my answer. You might be on mute, Jennifer.
That money is going into what? What account?
Jennifer, you can't hear either.
Right. Do you want to try a different connection, maybe on a phone or something? That we really can't hear you.
I'm here. Jennifer Stevens, Associate
Jennifer,
Accountant
that would be great.
for Social Equity Equity. Yeah, so there's the Cannabis Regulatory and Investment Account that started fiscal year 2022.
Tell me how much money is in that account.
That account has 11,060,780. That account is being used by DCP right now for their cannabis work. Okay, so that's the balance as of today.
What is the name of that account specifically?
Cannabis Regulatory and Investment Account.
That's coming from, I'm trying to follow the dots. That is coming from the account that got all the fees and the cannabis, all those dollars went into that account.
It has a number of different fees: criminal history check fees, fees paid by applicants for various cannabis establishment licenses, the lottery, provisional final license and renewal.
Jennifer, so that we don't belabor this and because of the whole, could you give us the names of each one of the accounts and what money goes into those accounts? I see what we have in front of us, but it doesn't seem to match what I'm hearing.
Okay.
And we're trying to get an idea of where all the money is that is coming to the state for adult cannabis, and who is getting paid out of it. Doesn't have to be.
So right now there's the two accounts, the Cannabis Regulatory Investment Account.
You can send it to us.
Okay.
We need to see it in print.
Yep.
And be able to understand it. Okay.
And it is there on the screen display in the box, the two accounts, the two funds.
Yep, Representative, we can add, I think what you're looking for is to add the balances to these funds, because we did list out the funds in the materials, but we can add balances as well, if that's helpful.
The balances as of now, it says you have the account fund, and there's Cannabis Regulatory Investment Account, Social Equity and Innovation Account, Social Equity Innovation Fund, which really should be one and the same, and Prevention and Recovery Services. All of those are being filled by the money that we're getting from adult cannabis. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you hear me now?
Not really. Sorry. So we don't belabor it because we don't have that much time, but we really need to have the balances on where and when these accounts were opened at what time, so that we know exactly how much money has come in for adult cannabis and where it's being paid out, okay?
Yep, understood.
And in fairness, I'd like to just kind of tack on to what Representative Walker was just saying. You know, we just got this at 9:23 this morning, so.
Yeah, no, sorry, there was no assumption that anyone had memorized this. We're just we're going through it live to kind of give you a guide to it, but definitely understood.
Thank you.
Great. So moving on to the next topic. Sorry for scrolling here. The next question was around CRDA venues, and there was a request to provide historical look back on state funding for the venues through CRDA, projections for future revenues, future attendance. So that's all been, we provided a lot of detail there. I don't know if folks want to go into detail now. We have the CRDA team on the line. Otherwise, we can, I believe we provided all the detail that was requested. Any questions on that front?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Senator Hartley, go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, you know, this Zoom stuff is driving me crazy. And I feel like we're missing out on the good information that the agency is giving us. But I'm just interested, going back to the cannabis fund, and correct me, Commissioner, if I'm wrong, do we not have in statute language that the Social Action Council will, in conjunction with, I guess it's department or maybe OPM, in terms of identifying the reinvestment of this fund into the community. That's what I'm really interested in, and I want to know how that's going.
I'm so sorry. Did anyone have trouble understanding Senator Hartley, or is it just me?
Yeah, I couldn't.
I think everyone needs to put their microphones on mute if they're not speaking. I think that's the issue.
All right.
Can you hear me now, Commissioner?
Much better, Senator.
Yeah, okay. So technology is killing us. Yeah, no, my question is, with regard to the social equity fund, well, the account more tended, I guess, by the fiscal year into the fund. But I'm interested in what is going on today in terms of working in cooperation and consolidation with the council and with the keeper of funds, if that's OPM or if that's DEP. Are the decisions regard to the reinvestment portion of this being made collaborative?
I think, let me rephrase, it got choppy there, but I think you're asking for the reinvestment mandate for SEC. How is the decision being made as to where those funds are going to go, where the reinvestment is going to be made, in what communities, in what types of projects? Is that your question, Senator?
Yes, yes.
Great. Ginny Ray, you want to give it a try? We'll see if your sound is any better. That's fully within the executive director's scope.
Yes, can you hear me now?
So far, so good.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm sorry for the issues with the microphone. So the reinvestment decisions are being made at the council level. So right now we are working on doing research and identifying. We have a series of community conversations with the constituents, and we're going to be looking at DIAs, disproportionately impacted areas, to make a determination what the needs are of the community, and then create an application process, have those folks apply, and the council will then make a determination as to the project will be funded.
Okay, so that has been happening, and I guess I'm to assume that it's going to continue the collective joint efforts going forward on how those funds are deployed into the community.
So it is the council's charge to deploy the funds for reinvestment and to come up with the process in which the funds will be spent and what they will.
Excuse me, Jenny. All right, Mr. Chair, is there any way that everybody can go off and come back on? This is essentially, we're not hearing anybody's conversation because it's cutting in and out.
Senator, can I make a suggestion? Representative Gibson, if you mute, I think that might help because I think we're getting audio from his. Let's give that.
I don't think that's it. It's everybody is.
No, now it's so much better.
It's all, everybody is talking in bits and pieces. All you're getting is bits and pieces of what people are saying.
I think it's because Representative Gibson's audio is cutting in. Can we just give it one more try with Ginny Ray? Do you mind saying again the piece about the, about the reinvestment? Let's just see if the audio is better.
So the reinvestment piece is being worked on by the council. No, not better.
Okay.
No, it's not.
I think maybe part of the issue too might be the headset and talking into it. I'm not, because I can hear you, Commissioner, fine.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just that it doesn't do any good for us to have that 45 minutes of nobody understanding what's going on.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with Kathy here. I'm struggling. The people are cutting in and out. The voices are high and low, and
happy to. We can all go back in and out. Whatever your suggestion is.
So I'm just talking to Bobby Gibson.
Thank you, Senator. Yeah, I think what it is the headset. I don't think it was my audio. I'm in a quiet room.
I don't think it's you. I think it's the way the whole system is set up today. Does not appear to be working well for anybody to get any information. It's all choppy, the whole thing, on every single speaker. It's not just Ginny Ray. It's the whole system. And so I don't know exactly what, but it's up to you, Mr. Chair. I'm just suggesting that we, because if you go back and listen to this tape, because you're not on it full time, you're not going to get anything out of it because nobody is clear. So, but it's up to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Taylor, we have until 10:45, correct?
Yes.
Okay. My suggestion, or let me ask you, Taylor, this: would it be okay if we finished up this session with DCD? Would it be too much of a hassle if all the members logged off and logged back on?
Not for me. It would be fine.
I mean, what if we gave every organization like 5 extra minutes?
That's of course fine with me. Yes, if that's what you'd like to do, that's okay.
Okay, so let's just finish up with this with DCD. I see Rep. Nucio, you have your hand up, and we'll go after that. We'll see if it improves with everyone's mics off and the headsets not being used. Okay. Rep. Nucio.
thank you very much. I was just wondering if you could tell me how are you determining the areas of most impact for the cannabis stuff? I know a lot of this is happening at the council level, and I just would like some insight on how all that's working as a legislator.
I'm sorry to ask you to repeat the question. Was it that you wanted?
Excuse me. So I'm sorry, Miss Ginny Ray Clay. I apologize. Can you take your headset off and just talk into your computer?
Is that better?
Yes, continue, please.
Okay. If you could just repeat that question. I actually have our IT guy here trying to fix my microphone, my reception, but now I have the computer open.
Okay, I'm wondering how you are determining the areas that are going to be receiving monies or funding. I'm wondering how you're determining the areas that are disproportionately affected.
So the council is required to certify a disproportionately impacted area map annually. And so we're using the conviction rate. Any community that has a conviction rate of 10% or higher is listed right now as a disproportionately impacted area. And it's based on the American Census, something. I can get you the formal name.
10% of the total population? Is it a yearly? How are they accumulating the convictions?
Yeah, it's information that we received from OPM and the University of Connecticut. But there's I don't remember, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the American something. I can get that to you, but that's where we get the 10%.
I would appreciate that, just because I would like to understand how exactly all this is working, since it's outside the scope of the legislature.
Sure.
Thank you.
And we can hear you much better now, Ginny.
Okay, good.
Would you like me to continue, or I noticed Senator Hartley has her hand up. You're on mute, Representative.
Senator Hartley, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks. I'll try to talk very fast. So back on this cannabis issue, I guess I'm interested to know how many FTEs. I saw some numbers. I thought across all agencies it was like 58. That I'm not sure if that's the accurate number, but I guess my question is, so those dollars, salary and fringe, they obviously are coming out of the fund, and I'm once again concerned about the investment that we're trying to position ourselves to make into these disparate affected communities, if it is not going to be significantly impacted by salary and fringe. So if you want to answer me that afterwards, but I'm very concerned about that proportion.
So the only funds that the Social Equity Council has is in salary and fringe is for we have 5 people right now on our staff. We are hiring 5 more by the end of the fiscal year, and we will be bringing on 3 in fiscal year 24. Any other salary and fringe from any other agencies or organizations, I have no information on that.
I understand, and that's what I'm talking about explicitly, because it looks to me like there were a total of maybe 58 FTEs. That obviously is going to come out of the fund, and I just would like to have an understanding about our salary draw and our fringe draw off of that fund in relation to what then we are going to be have the capacity for the reinvestment into our community.
Just jump in. The number is 13 full-time employees associated with the Social Equity Council, and we provided a list of what those positions do, and so and we can get the exact breakdown of the salaries there, but 13 is the number of social equity full-time employees.
Yeah, no, that I understand, and I guess this is a larger question, Alexandra. I'm talking about across all agencies, so maybe this is OFA to give us some kind of an analysis of all agency FTEs, fringe and salary, so that we understand what the draw is on that pool, which is going to be the fund or the account come January 1, because that obviously is, going to be that reduces the amount of reinvestment capacity we have.
Yeah, I apologize. I misunderstood your question. We can follow up to figure out cross-agency numbers.
Yeah. And then, Mr. Chair, I have one other question because I know we're under the clock here. DECD is putting in 2 FTEs for grant-trained positions to try to access the federal funding, which is very important. We need to do that. My question is, what happens after that window is closed, is over? We have 2 FTEs. Would they be more like a durational employee? Because obviously that is a time certain funding opportunity.
So the employees, the first question, the short answer to your question is they will have a long period of administering the grants. So it's not just about applying for the grants, which will be in the short term, but then a lot of these grants, you have up 5 to 10 years to spend the funds, and you need dedicated resources to administer those grants. So there will be quite a long tail of administration work that needs to be done. There are also steady state federal opportunities that are not associated with the one-time legislation that we're all familiar with, that these folks will also be applying for. For example, the Economic Development Authority, that's part of the Commerce Department, has ongoing grant opportunities that DECD applied to even before CHIPS Act and EJA and all that. And so these folks will be helping us apply for those ongoing opportunities as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. And also in your presentation, you talked about the new programs such as CT Community Challenge Program. Have you given us any, I haven't seen it, so I just asked in case I missed it, any kind of a summary of that program and its allocation?
Apologies. For the Communities Challenge Program, we provided the links in the response that detail the awards for round 1 and round 2. And those were made in April of 22 and December of 22. We gave out, just at a high level, but again, the details in there, at a high level, we gave out $45 million over 12 projects in round 1 and $36.5 million over 8 projects in round 2. And round 3 is open now, and we'll expect to make those announcements kind of at the end of the spring.
Okay, and then Alexander, could you just refresh my memory or just share with us afterwards what the goal and the criteria is on the Community Challenge Grant Program?
Yes, at a high level, it's basically downtown and Main Street revitalization funds to try to build projects that increase people using, living in, working in our downtowns and our main streets. And there's much more detail that we can follow up with, but that is the overarching goal, is to make our downtowns and main streets places that people want to be.
Okay, and since you've generated a lot of lists, how about if I ask for another? And that would be those awardees, in December of 22 and April, okay, whatever has been awarded.
A list of the awardees, is that what you said?
Yeah. And their dollar award.
Yep, that's linked in the in what was provided. And if you want anything more than what was provided, let us know and we'll get you even more detail.
I just want the list. I don't want to have to go look at the list.
Oh, sorry, you're saying right now?
Yes, just send it to us.
Okay. He wants us to compile the information that's linked to in one document. We'll take care of that.
Great.
I got boosts and everything else. Just give me one more list. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Sandra. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that response. Members, it's almost 10:50. And so we're behind. Once you fall behind, it's easier to continue falling behind. Out of respect, however, I do see Representative Nucio, you have your hand up. If you can make it one quick question, and if we don't get your total answer today, maybe we can do it during the next session. Rep Nucio?
That's fine. Thank you very much. So I'd like to go back to the cannabis fund stuff. I just want to fully understand, because I don't know, mistakenly, I was under the impression that all of the cannabis positions and all of that was going to come out of the cannabis revenue, that this was not going to be an impact to the general fund. And you said you have 13 positions over there right now. Are they being paid out of the general fund, or are they being paid out of the cannabis fund?
You're on mute.
All of the social equity council staff positions are being paid out of the cannabis fund. We have no general fund in our $10.7 million budget currently. Our current $10.7 million budget.
Okay, so the social equity staff that is mentioned here, was that the 13?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, Alexandra, are you saying that those are not included in your current head count, that they are outside of your head count?
That's correct.
Okay, where do we, they're listed separately. Okay, so any of the ads in all of these areas that we have them in the general fund, you have none that are hitting the general fund?
Correct. Our count is going from 86 to 94. So it's a net increase of 8 for DECD. And there are no social equity council employees in that increase of 8. 2 of those net increases are the grants professionals that Senator Hartley just mentioned, and 6 of them are community investment fund professionals that we haven't talked about here today, but we did provide information on the community investment fund. That's a new $175 million annual fund that provides grants for capital projects. And so we have 6 positions. We're adding 6 positions in order to administer those $175 million a year.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Commissioner, thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us. As we stated in the beginning, we're going to have you back again. So I hope that's okay with you, and we will contact you as far as when that can be done. But thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. We apologize for any technical difficulties that were on our end, and we look forward to seeing you all again. Thank you, Representative Gibson, and to the rest of the committee.
Thank you, everyone. So Taylor, I think we're okay with sound now, so we don't have to do that log off, log back on thing. So next we have Deep.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay.
Good morning,
Katie,
Commissioner.
Great to see you all. Katie Dykes here, Deep Commissioner, and I have several members of my team who have joined as well. During Deep's budget presentation before the committee, we committed to following up on a variety of different items ahead of our subcommittee working session, and we look forward to discussing those topics and any other questions that you might have.
Commissioner, you may continue.
Great. Okay, so we can walk through these if you like, question by question. The first was with respect to the authorized headcount and the funded headcount and the filled headcount for our department, and we have 995 positions that are authorized, 945 that are funded, and 832 that are filled at this point. And we were asked about.
Commissioner, forgive me for cutting you off. I apologize. Can you share your screen?
Oh, sure. Or actually, I might ask Andrew Hoskins, our Chief of Staff, if he can share. Andrew, would that work?
Yes. Give me one moment, please.
Great. While he's sharing in terms of the screen on the responses, the governors, we were asked about any change in the headcount. The governor's recommended budget does add 13 positions to Deep's budget. That includes providing funding for 1 additional wildlife biologist for black bear response. I know we had the chance to testify about the growing challenge that we have with the conflicts, human bear interactions that are increasing. And so this position is to enhance the state's ability to support responses to those conflicts. We also have the proposal for 1 additional environmental protection operations supervisor in our Parks Division. This would strengthen our management for creating an additional central region to strengthen support and for our permanent staff, and through them our seasonal staff for the Parks Division, and to provide for greater better delivery of maintenance services to across our state parks. We have 2 positions proposed for environmental justice. 2 environmental analysts that would be added to Deep's Office of Equity and Environmental Justice, and happy to share any additional information to supplement our previous testimony about the ongoing progress of increasing the staffing in the EJ office, including recruitments that are underway for positions that were authorized last year. We have also in the governor's budget funding for additional staff in our Bureau of Energy and Technology Policy. There are 9 positions that are proposed, then that includes fringe benefits. These positions we believe are pivotal to enable the state to pursue competitive funding opportunities in the billions of dollars and support the deployment of both competitive and formula funding being distributed to state energy offices, which is what the Bureau of Energy and Technology Policy functions as for Connecticut under the Federal Inflation Reduction Act, as well as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. A few of the key programs that we're pursuing currently under those federal statutes includes a hydrogen hub application that we're doing jointly with our neighboring states in the Northeast, transmission funding proposals that are competitive that we're pursuing, again, in coordination with our sister states in New England. We have $100 million in funding coming to DEEP, to the Bureau of Energy and Technology Policy to distribute in a way integrated with the energy efficiency programs for rebates for building decarbonization, energy efficiency, and building energy code adoption. There's a whole host of different programs. So the multiplier effect in terms of this investment of 1.4 million, what that will mean in terms of our ability to attract federal funding. It's a significant amount of federal funding that these positions will enable us to attract to Connecticut, ultimately to help to improve the reliability of the grid, improve the affordability of energy costs for Connecticut consumers, and as well continue our progress in achieving the state's targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I'll keep going. I know you'll cut me off if you have questions, if that works. We were asked about any vacant positions in our headcount and how they're budgeted into our plan. So there are currently 108 vacant positions with refill authority in our headcount, and we are in continual recruitment for new staff to fill those positions. They are all resulting from retirements, resignations, and other routine turnover. I'll say that, obviously the retirement cliff over the last 2 years has had a significant impact on recruitments. We have, been working tirelessly in coordination with DIS and our HR support team to refill those positions. As of the year end, let's see, at June 30th, we had 72 vacancies. Throughout calendar year 2022, we had 105 staff that retired from DEEP, and then 39 that transferred or resigned or otherwise separated from service. In that same calendar year, we hired 143 new employees. The average cost for an FTE at DEEP is $86,875, and we've provided the table for average fringe costs.
Mr. Chair, can I jump in with a question on this, please? I'm going to take that as a yes. Thank you, Katie. I was wondering if you could just tell me those 105 positions or 108 positions that you have that are open right now, are they in the budget full-time, full year starting July 1st?
Representative, I'll take that answer. All of the vacant positions that are currently being recruited for are accounted for in our budget across the different funds.
No, I understand that. What I'm asking is, are they budgeted in with a July 1st start date? Are they full-time, full year FTE equivalents?
They are full-time, full year FTE equivalents.
So they are, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. You can see on the screen the table that we provided in response to the question about the average fringe cost. So just circling back to that. We were asked lapse questions. Andrew, maybe I'll turn it over to you to summarize these quickly.
Thank you, Commissioner. For the lapse question, we referred to the specific exhibits in the comptroller's budget report, which is linked in this document.
Actually, I was hoping though you could just give the numbers, like which accounts do you have lapse dollars, and what is the amount of those? Looking through that account to try to identify where everybody is more. I don't have enough time for that right now.
Sure. For that, Dennis, if you could jump in with the answers there, please.
Pulling up the document. Andrew, give me a minute and I'll come back to that if you want to continue on, if that's okay.
Representative, could we follow up
Yep.
an email following this, and we'll provide the specific lapse dollars by account, if that works.
Sure, and I'm looking for what you had lapse as of 6:30 and what you're projecting to lapse this year.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Andrew, do you want to summarize ARPA as well?
Yes, I don't know if there are specific questions or if I should just go through ARPA project by project. How would the subcommittee like to handle that?
I'm trying to find your pages for ARPA, which is very hard.
Representative Walker, I can pull up, let me share my screen. We have a spreadsheet that kind of summarizes all of our ARPA.
Okay, and you sent that to us, correct?
We did. It should have arrived this morning. We had a very tight turnaround. I apologize for that, but you should have it. But in the meantime, I'm happy to share it and
okay, I have ARPA. I do. Where is it? Somebody's saying I have it, but I don't see it. Okay. Printed page.
Tony, it's online right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Okay. All right.
Can everyone see it okay, or would it be helpful to zoom in a little bit?
Zoom in a little bit. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, great. And thank you, Andrew, for.
all right. So, we received five or six projects assigned to the agency in 2022 and a number in 2023. A lot of these are municipal projects where we are working with the different municipalities to grant the ARPA dollars to them. For the 2022 projects, we are under contract with almost all of them. We have our bureau chief, Vicki Hackett, here who can talk about the two energy-related ARPA items for 2022. Vicki, would you like to?
Can I just ask, rather than do that, can I ask a couple direct questions and then she could respond?
Sure.
So for the outdoor recreation, you were allocated $21.5 million and 15.5 have been allotted and 6 million is unallotted. Can you send us the list of the that is covering the 15 million? We don't need to go over the whole thing right now. If you could send that to us, that would be great. The West Haven Land Trust Boardwalk, do we know what's going? Send us what does that say? Awaiting final plan. And then you got to slide it back over so we can see the name of the project. The New Haven Lighthouse Park, it's got 500,000, but that's not been allotted either. And that has
with that one, the city is working on scheduling community meetings to determine their scope of work.
Okay, so then the 40 million, that's for the 42 million, that's for broadband. Only 2 million has been allotted. Can you let us know what the 2 million is covering, and then tell us why do we have 40 million still not unallotted? That would be helpful if there's a plan for that 40 million, but we'd like to understand that. And then the 1 million for the swimming, the 1.5. Are you just extending that into the next year for the swimming lessons? The 1.5 was allocated with 500 allotted, 250,000 of that 500 has been encumbered. What about the 1 million that we haven't done anything with? And that would be my questions for the entire group, I do believe.
We have for the ARPA swim lessons, we have our Deputy Commissioner Mason Trumbull here, but I will just say that the 1.5 million was allocated 500,000 for the 3 years. So the first year, you know, it was a big effort to stand up the program, and I applaud Mason and his team have done a wonderful job. And so now we have a partnership underway with the YMCA. We're looking to expand that partnership. And so I think, you know, we will see those dollars begin to flow to those organizations, and free swimming lessons will be administered.
And if you could just send us where that has been, those contracts have been done, which towns is it going to help out, which cities, which kids. That's great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, whoever is chairing this. Tony, are you chairing the meeting now?
No.
I don't see Bobby on here anymore.
I'm here, Senator.
Oh, okay. I didn't see you, Bobby. I was wondering where the heck is Bobby?
I'm here. I'm here.
All right. Anyways, thank you, Bobby.
Hold it. Kathy, you dismissed them, and I still hadn't got my answers to what I was going to ask. On the outdoor recreation, does that include West Rock and East Rock in there?
Representative Walker, the West Rock is, as you know, is a state park. So that's a kind of $1 million set aside in our in the 21.5 million that was allocated for outdoor recreation, and the 1 million for East Rock, which is a municipal park. We are currently under contract with the city of New Haven, so they have, you know, access to that funding as the expenses begin to roll in.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, hello, Representative Walker. This is Mason Trumbull, Deputy Commissioner for Environmental Conservation. Quick update on that. Most of if you've driven up to the top of West Rock recently, you probably have noticed that the road is in pretty tough shape, and most of that project and most of that money is going to go to much needed repaving. I think you see some good news there.
Okay. Okay. How about just trash cans at West Rock?
Sorry, Representative, I missed that.
Trash cans?
Yeah, so most of our right now it's just tough for us with staffing to be able to keep the trash cans maintained. So most of our parks, all of our parks, some of them have dumpsters, but we do not. We have pack in, pack out at our parks, and we don't have the staffing right now to be able to manage and maintain trash cans in our parks.
Thank you.
And just to note, the outdoor recreation funding, we have created a website called Restore CT State Parks, and we'll share that back to the committee. It provides the full listing of all of the projects that we have undertaken or that are in the pipeline to be funded with the ARPA funding and the bond funds that were appropriated or approved in the last budget cycle. So we'll share that and as well additional detail on the current status for all of the projects that are in scope.
Thank you for all your answers. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, I see a question by Rep. Dillon. Rep. Dillon? Rep. Dillon, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here today, Commissioner. I wonder either today or later if we could get more information about the energy retrofit and the issue that I raised in other hearings about the residents of New Haven being excluded from certain benefits. One of which is EV charging. All the utility administered programs are claiming New Haven is not eligible, citing yourself and your department and DECD as the authority, and it's been going on since July. So at some point, and I know we have a lot of material to cover, this really needs to get resolved because it's crazy making.
I'm very concerned to hear that, Representative. I'm not aware of those concerns, but I'll be glad to follow offline to better understand what the issue is. We have been making extraordinary efforts to ensure that our energy efficiency programs are available to folks. I don't know if this, including, funding that was provided to address weatherization barriers and better ensure that renters can access our energy efficiency funds. I don't know if perhaps there's some connection to the changed designation of New Haven as a distressed municipality, and whether that might be affecting funding qualifications for related to DCD. But I'm happy to follow up offline to better understand the issue and
that
make
would
sure
be great.
give you information.
Because by statute we should be, and this has been going on in public hearings and Zoom meetings since July, and it's still a problem. So we need to straighten it out. Thank you very much.
I promise this is going to be 5 seconds, Mr. Chair. Commissioner, you keep referring to the fact that New Haven is not a distressed municipality, but we have been told by DECD that we still are afforded the experience of whatever goes with for 5 years. So therefore, that should never be a reason why anything doesn't go to New Haven right now until we have that resolved. So I hope that we can resolve it so that we don't have to keep going back over that again.
Of course. Thank you for clarifying that. That's our understanding as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Representative Walker. Commissioner, we have about 15 more minutes.
Okay. Super. So the next, I think that kind of covers the questions we were responding to with respect to ARPA. We also have provided some information in response to questions related to facility closures, and we are currently in process to decommission 9 buildings that we expect to be able to close down once our new Western District headquarters facility is completed in 2023. And we have, I do want to, commend our Bureau of Central Services, which has used an asset index methodology to inventory all of our buildings. They're very passionate about ensuring that we're keeping in mind the full cost of maintenance and considering effectively, where we have opportunities that to continue to meet our mission responsibilities with a smaller footprint. We have over 1,000 buildings that DEEP maintains across all of our parks and our acreage that we own. So that's a very important issue for us. Passport to Parks, we've provided a budget summary on Passport. I'll pause in case there's any specific questions related to Passport, but just continue to underscore how critical Passport is for us to be able to maintain the level of service and amenities that visitors expect at our parks. We saw a doubling of increase in visitors to state parks during the pandemic, and the good news is that those high visitor levels have sustained even after the public health emergency concluded. So we were delighted to see that folks have those connections to parks are continuing, and that means that we have a lot more maintenance requirements. The level, having adequate staffing to be able to support that level of visitors continues to be critical for us, and the Passport to Parks program is helping us to meet that need.
Thank you, Commissioner. That is great news. But Commissioner, we have a question by Senator Austin. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the organizational chart, does it have all of the positions that are being paid for out of the passport to parks?
Yes, Senator Austin, we did include that. They are designated. We have 35 positions funded out of passport to parks that aren't included in the org chart.
Say it again, Mason, I'm sorry.
We have 35 positions currently funded out of passport to the parks, and we did include those in the org chart that we sent.
Does it also include the number of parks? Because 35 is not a lot for the amount of money that's going in here now. And my understanding is that some of the all of the part-time parks and beaches staff are paid out of that. How many would that be?
That we usually hire between 500 to 600 seasonal staff, and that usually it's in our budget summary. That's between $5 and $8 million, depending on the year. We did increase our seasonal staff salary this year because we had some very significant recruiting challenges last year, and so we're looking like we're coming into the season in a better position to be able to hire staff. And so our budget this year is right around $8 million. Again, the challenge there is recruiting, and which we started earlier than ever this year, and we are actively doing right now.
And one of the things that we hear, because that's what I was looking for, is to try to figure out. So the full-time and other positions are 35 of those are in 2.9 million.
That is correct. Plus the, I believe the fringe benefits are included for those positions as well.
And the seasonal positions was 5.9. We're bringing it down to, you spent 5.9. You have 955 left, but you're still trying to fill 6,000,009 positions.
Yes, Senator, those are last year's budget. So that's the recruiting challenges that I mentioned earlier. This year, we have increased our budget. It's close to right around $8 million this year. We had a significant increase in seasonal staff salary as well. So if we are able to recruit at the levels we hope we'll be able to, we anticipate hitting that budget this year. So some significant increase this year, but I think that's a good thing to be able to better support our parks throughout the busy summer season.
And
yeah,
I'm sorry, Katie.
No, just underscoring the importance of that salary increase to keep pace, because we're competing with private sector, retail and other employers for these critical positions. And so I'm delighted we were able to provide for an increase. We got a lot of positive attention around our full staffing for lifeguards last year, which is an impossible feat. And I'm really proud of that success. As others were really struggling to maintain lifeguards, for example. So having that support for that full budget is really important for us to be able to keep pace and have a competitive salary to recruit, especially to recruit returning seasonals who have important skills to help us maintain our services.
And what is in OE? If you could get us to us what we're paying for out of OE.
We can circle back on that unless, Mason, you have a quick.
Mason, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Senator, I think I'm having a little bit of audio problems. I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Other expenses.
What's in other expenses?
Other expenses, yeah, that's really a misnomer. Those are operational expenses. And so that includes, everything that we do to keep our parks running throughout the year. So gas for vehicles, porta potties, all the fun things that we have to do, plumbing repairs, etc., to keep a park running and operational.
And the conservation districts, are they in here too? Do we know?
The CEQ is row 8, Senator.
I know CEQ, but
conservation districts are right above it.
that's soil and water.
Yep.
Is that soil and water and conservation, because they were separate?
They're combined. The total is 720 for those entities.
Okay, I just wanted to see if they were still there. And capital expenditures, you only spent, you put 2.5, but you had 500 and only spent 553. Is this capital expenses within the parks and beach systems?
A lot of it was equipment. We had a lot of equipment purchases, and there's supply problems that we're still struggling with. So that was our starting budget based on some supplemental funding that we were provided. So yeah, we didn't spend as much as we would have liked in last calendar year.
Do you have a plan to spend 2.5 million this year?
Yes. Yeah, we're just carrying forward our plan from last year. Anything that didn't get filled, it's carried forward, and we did a reassessment. So we
Yeah,
have a plan to
that's really as a result of supply chain issues last year. We were going to put that money towards mowers, vehicles, et cetera. Really, a lot of those items just were not available, and so we're seeing some of that becoming available now, and we're hoping to be able to get some of that in before the recreation season.
So I just want to say that I consider, having been one of those people amongst many others that pushed hard for the Passport to Parks. I just want to say that I think that this is a valuable program, but it's under attack every single year from legislators who want to take money away from Passport to Parks. So if you can't tell me that you're spending the money, then that leaves it up to attack each year. So I just caution you on not spending the money every year, because I have groups that every year want to take more money away from the Passport to Parks, and I'm very concerned that once we start that, it's that slippery slope to getting rid of Passport to Parks. I can't say it enough. You need to provide a detailed explanation on what you're spending it on, not just a sheet like this, but a detailed explanation so people can see it. And we need to spend the money. We cannot have reserves in this fund if we're because that just means we're collecting too much money from people. So thank you.
If I may, Senator, I just really do want to say how much we appreciate all of the support and the opportunity in a forum like this to explain a little bit more about the critical functions and services that this funding provides. I hear every 4th of July from first selectmen and legislators about, where are the dumpsters and where are the, where are the services, where are the staff, where are the lifeguards? And so it's conversations like this happening before the season ramps up that are really critical for us to be able to, deliver those services people want in the summer. We will provide that detailed information and actually I'm going to think about ways that we can provide for more of our reporting, not just to the legislature, but publicly on our website so people can see the deficits that or the spend from last year is really kind of related to the unique circumstances of supply chains, recruiting challenges, right, as you heard on seasonals, and a lot of other dynamics that I think many retail businesses and other recreation partners were experiencing as well. We'll provide all of that information. If anything, it leaves us with more demand this year that we need to fund as we're catching up on what we couldn't procure or where we couldn't hire last year. So glad to circle back on that. And thank you for that question.
Thank you for those answers, Ms. Commissioner, Madam Commissioner. All right, you have a little bit more to share with us? Commissioner,
sorry, thank you. Again, continuing on the theme of parks, we were asked to provide a map of the planned park districts. We have currently East and West divisions, and so the addition of this central region position will be integrated. We're still finalizing our plans of how we will accomplish that division, but we've provided a draft org chart to show the reorganization of the park units under this new position, and we'll be glad to follow that up to try to represent that a little bit more spatially as well. We were asked about how many pieces of accessibility equipment could be purchased with the proposed 500,000, and we're still working through that, but at a unit cost of approximately $20,000 to $25,000 per wheelchair is sort of a base assumption that we're making in this estimate. We're still working through some of the different specifications and different procurement considerations for that. So we will circle back to the committee on that question as well. We received a question about staffing levels in our radiation unit, and I'm happy to turn over quickly to our acting deputy, Tracy Babbage, to speak to the staffing in this group. I know we have a short amount of time, so Tracy, if you want to go quickly.
Absolutely. Just very quickly, 14 authorized positions, 9 that are filled. We outlined in this paragraph, it's various funding sources, which we specified staff that are on the nuclear safety and emergency program that are really dedicated to Millstone. We also run a mammography program. So we spelled that all out, but happy to take any questions that folks might have on that.
And then the next question we were asked is the expected fiscal year 23 revenues and expenditures from the PUC fund, the Public Utility Assessment. And so our share of the FY23 utility assessment budget is $30,285,405. And I believe that the revenue that's collected will match the total assessed value there. We were also asked about environmental justice staffing at DEEP. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the governor's budget includes 2 incremental staff positions, environmental analysts within the EJ office. I'll note I'm looking forward, I believe, this Friday to be testifying at the Environment Committee about an environmental justice bill that DEEP has that the committee has raised at DEEP's request, and that those additional 2 positions would, among other things, because there are additional duties, but they would also be able to help implement the cumulative impacts framework and associated regulations that would be we contemplated should that bill be adopted. In addition, we have 6 total staff that are currently committed to the Office of Equity and Environmental Justice within the Commissioner's Office at DEEP. We are within days, if not weeks, of completing the hiring for a director of the Environmental Justice Office. That director position is critical to help support the broad range of things that this office does, including environmental justice, Indian affairs, diversity, equity, inclusion, and as I mentioned, hopefully in future, work on strengthening Connecticut's environmental justice law. This office is also supporting the CJAC, the Connecticut Equity and Environmental Justice Advisory Council that DEEP is proud to have kicked off last year. There are currently just 2 staff, amazing 2 staff in our EJ office, a planning specialist and an environmental analyst 3, and they work on a whole host of different matters. In addition to the director position, we have also posted a position for an environmental analyst 2 in the EJ office. And that recruitment, the call for applications just closed. That position will help us to be able to develop our EJ mapping tool for the state and other data-driven efforts. And then we are developing the recruitment for the 2 dedicated Indian Affairs positions, the Staff Attorney 1 and the EA 1. I appreciate the support and from this committee chairs for these 2 positions, and we concur with the importance of having these permanent positions to help facilitate our work with the tribes. The thought in the sequencing here was finalize the director position so the director could be managing the recruitment for these 2 positions as well as the other EA 2. And so we're delighted to see those moving forward. And then, as I mentioned, finally, the governor's budget includes the 2 additional positions for this office. I'm happy to take any questions there. The Bureau of Energy and Technology Policy is also proposed to see an additional 9 positions added. And I can assure that these positions are really critical to helping to lower energy costs for all types of end users, residents, businesses, and commercial and industrial customers. There are permanent operational needs associated with these positions. We're in the midst of a transition in our grid and shifting to more decarbonized and emission-free resources. These positions will enable us to support what's really been an explosion of responsibilities and addressing needs across the grid. We've seen, with the federal funding, of course, billions of dollars that are available, but these are not formula funds under the Inflation Reduction Act. These are competitive dollars, and the competition is fierce across the entire U.S. for these funding opportunities. New England has a desperate need for more transmission upgrades that can integrate low-cost hydro from Canada, which will be an improved energy affordability. We've applied for submitted initial concepts for some transmission funding to the Department of Energy, but the deployment of those funds will be a multi-year effort requiring procurements and engagement with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Similarly, we're working on a hydrogen hub application to the Department of Energy. We were pleased to be part of a hydrogen task force that was commissioned by the legislature last year to develop recommendations for a hydrogen economy. We're supporting legislation. I testified in support of it at ENT yesterday about this effort. We will need additional staff to be able to integrate these new innovative energy sources into our region. And then finally, on buildings, this is an area that's truly exploding. Our Bureau currently supports the oversight of the state's energy efficiency programs, and the demand for these programs has increased 45% since before the pandemic, as customers are seeking more ways to lower their energy costs. There's formula funding that will be coming from the federal government, but also 10 years worth of tax credits that have been authorized for a whole host of energy efficiency, weatherization, and electric appliances that will be direct available to consumers. And so there's a lot of demand for us to provide tools for workforce development, consumer education and marketing, and streamlining state rebates with these federal tax credits to make it seamless for businesses and residents to be able to access this unprecedented amount of federal funding. But I anticipate that as we see this expansion in responsibilities, there's no end in sight into the additional tasks that are needed, including more coordination at the regional level and around grid reliability and resilience. That this is an increasing area of responsibility and activity, especially as we see acceleration of climate change, putting more risks and more disruptions on our energy supplies. Road salt was another question that we were, another area that we were asked questions about. And so I'm happy to turn to Graham Stevens to respond briefly to some of the questions that were raised there.
Good morning, folks. We had questions on road salt, which is a bit of an emerging contaminant issue in Connecticut, particularly as it relates to drinking water supplies. And we provided some answers in written responses here for your benefit. But essentially, the use of road salt as a application to our roads to deal with icy conditions does have potential to impact our surface water, groundwater, and drinking water, particularly where drinking water is generated from private wells that pull from the groundwater. And what we've seen in our sampling and the sampling that the USGS has conducted, there has been an increase in chloride levels in our waters in the state over the past decade. And we certainly are trying to work with our partners at the town level as well as with the Connecticut DOT to ensure that these safety measures to apply products to our roadways are not, we're trying to minimize the environmental impact of those application processes. And that's something that we continue to work with them on, as we always have. And as far as, efforts that are out there with respect to sampling, we are responsive to all issues that come to the department with respect to drinking water impacts. We see that as one of the highest priority issues for us to respond to when someone has contamination in their drinking water well. And with respect to some significant impacts in and around the Tolland area, we recently in 2022 completed a study on an issue on a certain area of Tolland And since that time, the towns have all retained environmental consultants. They're looking at the problem. They're looking at DEEP's reports, and they're working towards corrective measures that can be taken to, address the issue of longer-term safe drinking water supplies. That also involves, other partners, including the Department of Public Health. And as far as alternatives to the current practices for, protecting our drivers, the users of our roads and highways from icy and snowy conditions, we've looked at with DOT other mechanisms to deal with those conditions. There are ways in which we can increase, the amount of, calcium in that mixture. There's also been some studies to look at acetates and other, more organic additions, including molasses, but those also have significant impacts on the environment as well. So we are, really trying to work to prioritize that all municipalities look at the Green Snow Pro training, which I know that many municipalities have and continue to address. And this is just something that we are going to have to, do planning around and ensure that, that when developments occur and when expansions occur, that there is sufficient quantity of drinking water available for our residents. And if there is an impact, all agencies in the state of Connecticut are available and ready to respond to that impact to protect people's health and their drinking water wells.
Thank you for that answer. Really appreciate it. Commissioner?
So just quickly, we were asked questions about our Black incremental position for black bears and what the duties of this person would be. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Commissioner. I'm not, no disrespect, but we're running out of time.
Okay.
What we may have to do is have you back again.
Yeah.
To finish up the report, if that's okay with you.
Always delighted to have the opportunity. I think we just had 3 additional questions left, and so we may not need much additional time next time you have an opportunity. So I appreciate that, and I know you all have a lot to get through. So thank you so much for indulging us today.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And what we'll do is, since we got your information this morning, we'll go through it, and we'll be ahead of the game. So when you do come back, we can get right to our questions.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for your team for coming in, doing such a great presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Taylor, so we have Department of Agriculture, correct?
You are correct. And
Thank
I think we are in.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Commissioner. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good, good.
So we apologize for being a little behind, but we've had some good sessions, and thank you for batting cleanup, and we're ready to get started.
Happy to. Well, and always cede the time to our good friend and colleague over at DEEP. So I'm sure Commissioner Dykes answered your questions thoroughly and has some follow-up for you. Just I don't have a prepared statement to open this conversation, but a couple of things, top line information that I'd like to share out from our public hearing last week. We received a number of questions regarding our Farmers Market Nutrition Program, our efforts to increase diversity in Connecticut agriculture and expand into urban agriculture efforts, farm to school programming. We've submitted our written responses to those questions to the administrator of the committee. So I hope that members have them and have an opportunity to review them. And I'll just share that I'm joined here by Kaylee Royston, our legislative liaison, and Nathan Wilson, our director of operations. So if you hear stuff in the background, we're all in the conference room together, ready to answer the questions that members may have. So Representative, I'll turn it over to you. We can share our written responses and walk through those, or I can take questions from the members, whatever is your choice.
Commissioner, I think it'd be good for us if you went ahead and went through, because we got a lot of information from last night today at one point. So we're still trying to digest everything. So if you would we would appreciate that. And
Absolutely.
And when you can, if you can share your screen, that'd be great also.
Yeah, actually, Kaylee Royston will share her screen. So I hope she has, I think it looks like she has permissions. All right. Can everybody see this? Great. So a number of questions regarding the industry and our efforts to increase diversity. According to the 2017 Census of Agriculture, which the USDA conducts every 5 years, this year is a census year as well, 1.4 producers identified as Black, Indigenous, or persons of color in Connecticut. So it is our effort to increase the number and the success of those individual farmers, making sure that Connecticut's agricultural industry reflects Connecticut's residents. And so we've done a couple of things to this effort. One, we applied for and received specialty crop block grant funding, which is a USDA program, to establish the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Working Group. This working group was a crucial component of our effort to include not only our agency, but our partner organizations, farmers from across the state, and other nonprofits, in an effort to solicit and gain the insight from BIPOC producers as to what challenges they're facing and how we can be more responsive to those. So we identified three main tenets to build and strengthen relationships, increase engagement, and then importantly, produce an annual report with actionable recommendations to help guide us as an industry to achieve these results. I will say that we are in the last moments of finalizing this report, and it is our goal to have it released publicly and to the legislature later in spring of 2023. We did a call for nominations as opposed to the normal process where we pick and choose individuals based on current relationships or knowledge of organizations that work with us. We did a call out and solicited volunteers to join this effort. We had over 70, actually, I believe over 60 people apply, if you will, self-nominate to participate in this effort, which I think was great, that we did a really strong job with our outreach and soliciting those folks. And we had over 4 dozen that ended up being a part of this effort. So we were able to take in a lot of that knowledge and experience to help work through this. We have funding and are working through our contracting to establish a BIPOC mentorship apprenticeship program, recognizing that many folks in these communities don't have that knowledge or family background in agriculture. Improve marketing to increase access for resources for beginning and BIPOC farmers so that they know what services are out there, whether it be within DOAG or at a sister agency, DEEP or DECD, a federal agency such as the Natural Resource Conservation Service or Farm Service Agency or Rural Development, or in the private for-profit world, our partners at Farm Credit East and other organizations that help folks in their build their business in agriculture. And then we also are working with land trusts to determine how we can make more land available, particularly in urban areas, for producers to use to start their operation. So that's a little bit about our DEI working group. I'll add in here, and this isn't in our written comments, but I thought about it this morning as I was preparing for this. We also applied to the USDA Farm Service Agency last fall for their Increasing Land, Capital, and Marketing Access Program. It's a federal program specifically tailored to the BIPOC community that states and nonprofits could apply for. We applied for a $2.5 million grant with the 3 basic tenets of self-determination for those farmers to understand how to grow on their own and help them through that. direct technical assistance to make sure that they can be sustained and supported to be successful, and then access to capital. And we were joined by the University of Connecticut's Yukon Extension Program, the Connecticut Farmland Trust, and American Farmland Trust. So we have not received word. USDA has not released who has been awarded those grants, but I am hopeful and confident that they will look kindly upon our application and that we will be able to undertake that work. Next up,
Mr. Commissioner.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just had a quick question. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Sure.
But I'm going over your report and I missed something. You said you have 164 producers when it goes back up to diversity in Connecticut agriculture.
Yep.
All right. When you say 164 producers, is that farmers? What is a producer?
So yes, that's USDA doesn't call farmers farmers. I guess that's not technical enough of a term. They call them producers. Okay. And so this is the reflection of the USDA census. So that's why that terminology is used. So and that's self-reported. So that's we believe and understand there probably are additional BIPOC farmers in the state, but they either didn't receive the census or didn't return it.
Okay, so in the state of Connecticut, there are 164 producers. How do you have a number for the total amount of producers in our state?
5,500 is the approximation.
5,500. Okay, and this program is designed to increase the number of Black and Indigenous and people of color in farming.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How do we have a number from like previous years so we can see like how it's growing and what efforts have been put forth that will help it to grow, or what we need to put forth to help it to grow?
So every 5 years, the USDA does a census. So we can look back for the 2012 and 2007 reports and see what information is there and share that with the committee.
That'd be great, because that way we can see, where we were, what efforts were put forth, and then what we need to do going down the road to increase that number. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. And Mr. Commissioner, I see Rep. Dillon has a question for you. Rep. Dillon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner. Very quickly, on the urban farmers, and thank you very much for being here. On the urban farmers, we may have talked about this last year, and I had found in another lifetime that we had a lot of problems with lead in the soil when we were trying to do urban farming, and years after that, I served on a board of a group that was trying to encourage that urban farming, and we were spending a lot of our time raising money to purchase compost from other parts of the state. Do you have any kind of does the department have any kind of a program to either subsidize or encourage some kind of cross-sharing of compost to help some areas improve their soil?
That's a great question and a much needed component. Composting actually falls under the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. So we don't have any formal programming there. But I will say that we have over the previous 2 years run a webinar specifically focused on urban agriculture with the Yukon Extension, the Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station, and the Natural Resource Conservation Service to go through the types of questions that urban farmers need to be thinking about in order to prepare themselves in their soil. And that's one of the things that we always highlight, is that the soil needs to be tested, or you need to bring in additional soil amendments to make sure that the food that you want to grow is safe to be consumed.
So would I be correct in assuming that if my constituents were looking for assistance in compost, dear Lord, couldn't we just call it soil improvement? Anyway, if they're looking for, compost programs, they would have to go to DEEP?
Well, DEEP regulates composting. If they needed specific help, we could probably help them find a vendor but it's not a regulatory role that we have.
But if we wanted to have a program where we could have sharing between towns or some kind of subsidy, are you saying that that would not be your department?
And not currently. I think we need legislation to change that. And I do believe that there are some efforts across the state to compost food waste and pull that out of the waste stream. That would be an effort that you might want to look at as a way to bolster or provide connectivity between the composters and the potential farmers.
Thanks. No, and I know it's complicated, with resistant molecules and all those things, but thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Dillon, for that question. Okay, Mr. Commissioner, I don't see any other questions at this time. Thank you for answering those. Please continue, sir.
Thank you. One of the other questions that we received from the committee was regarding our new farmer microgrant program. This was a program that we launched in 2021. We took the authorization that we have under the Farm Transition Grant and we're able to create additional buckets for people to apply to. The new farmer microgrant, new farmers were always eligible to apply for the transition grant. The grant has a $49,999 maximum. And it was very clear to us that a $5,000 grant, while very important to that new and small farmer, gets lost in the shuffle in the review panels against a $49,999 application or $100,000 project. So we pulled them out to create their own application process. And we hosted a number of informational webinars. We posted information through our website, through our weekly ad report, to encourage folks to apply. You have to be a farmer for at least 1 full year or up to with a maximum of 3 years. You have to have your farmer tax exemption permit through the Department of Revenue Service. You have to have drafted a 2 to 5 year business plan, and we can help people with getting that done. And then if they don't own the land, they need to have a written consent from their landowner or landlord, which is similar to our other projects. So the first year we launched the program, we had in 2021, we had 6 recipients, $28,000, a little more than $28,000 invested in those small new and beginning farmers. And I'm happy to report that we've been able to increase the total number of awards and total dollars spent in those programs. I will say, I've been to events where people who have received these awards have been, and they literally run up to me with excitement about how important this grant was for their business. As I mentioned during the committee meeting, these folks, they're probably tapped with their personal finances. They're not ready for a USDA loan or a commercial loan, but they are ready to grow their business. And these $5,000 grants are, equal to $1 million to them because it allows them to do something that was otherwise unattainable. So I'm very proud of this work and the team that has led this effort here in the department to make those investments and make sure that the next generation of farmers are getting set up and are able to accomplish what we all need for Connecticut's food system. Next question was regarding vertical gardens and urban farming information. Depending on the type of operation, our farm viability grant, our farm transition grant, or the specialty crop block grants are potential funding streams for that sort of production technique. We've also, through the Connecticut Grown for Connecticut Kids, which is our farm to school program, supported the purchase of vertical grow towers for classrooms and early childhood organizations to bring more ag into the classroom and get students and children aware of what it takes to grow that lettuce that's on their plate or the tomatoes that they eat in their school meals. So those are a couple ways that we can support those efforts in the state. We had a number of questions regarding our farmers market nutrition program. I'm sorry, Representative, go ahead.
I'm sorry for cutting you off, sir.
That's good.
The Connecticut Grown for Connecticut Kids grant program, which was passed, I believe it was last session, Could you expound just a little bit more on that? I did see a Google Doc where you sent out all the towns and schools that benefited from it, and I don't even think that some of our members are aware that schools in their district benefited from that.
Well, we've got Kaylee here. Kaylee does send out when we do a grant award all to each individual legislator. So legislators, I hope, read Kaylee's emails. She spends a fair amount of time prepping them and getting them out there. But we do try to make sure that people are aware that the department has been funding projects, programs, and organizations in their department. On the Connecticut Grown for Connecticut Kids, funding was allocated through ARPA, $250,000 in FY22, $500,000, or FY21, I'm sorry, $500,000 this past year. There's no additional ARPA funding allocated this year. In 2022, we received 59 applications for just over $960,000 in farm to school efforts. And I use farm to school, but it's really farm to education because, as I mentioned earlier, early childhood education centers are eligible. And we were able to award 14 of those applications for $250,000. Last year, we received 72 applications for over $1 million in farm to school programming through the Connecticut Grown for Connecticut Kids grant program. We were able to award, and I think it was 39, but I can double check on that number, for just about $500,000. We can share out some additional information on it, the list of awardees. Actually, Kaylee, did we send over the list of awardees? Yes. So, Representative, you should have in our packet the list of awardees. I strongly encourage folks to take a look at that and see if one of the awardees was in your respective districts. We have been able to do some really innovative programming that these organizations and school systems would not otherwise be able to support, whether it be bringing more Connecticut grown products into the school cafeteria, doing farm to school in the classroom programming and educating students on what it takes to grow food or where their food comes from. Experiential learning opportunities, which visits to local farms to get out and see what's happening in their community and what those local farmers are doing to feed Connecticut residents. And then also curriculum development for those districts and organizations that are really interested in pursuing farm to school programming, but need the time in order to develop the program before they can actually start doing anything in the classroom. There's a tremendous demand for these dollars. I think, given that we've had so many applications, there's a lot of interest to connect Connecticut students with more local farms. Importantly, the legislation included an advisory committee. And so we were able to poll people. I think we've got 12 or 14 members of the advisory committee from all different sectors in the agriculture, the education, the classroom, food service providers, to help us make sure that we were reviewing these grants appropriately, to do outreach and education in their respective communities about the program, but then also to serve as mentors to make sure that when we make this investment, that the awardee can actually accomplish what we're setting out to do. So we're very thankful for those advisory committee members who serve in this role.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. And forgive me, I did not mean to imply that you guys did not send out the information. But what I meant to say is I just don't think that a lot of our representatives and senators knew that they received it. It's such a great program. And actually, I just want to have one last question before I turn to Representative Dillon. Do you believe that there's a need to expand that program going forward?
Representative, that's a great question. I think, the budget is best determined when we work through OPM and the legislature works with OPM to balance all of the needs that may arise. So we'll certainly do our work on our end. But as we've seen, we've got a track record of success And if the program is continued to receive funding, we'll make sure that it's used very well.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. If you could actually submit a report, that'd be great.
Will do.
Thank you. Representative Dillon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, I should know this, but are fisheries and shellfish included in that program?
Yes, Representative. Aquaculture is included. And we just did a roundtable with Senator Murphy preparing for the 2023 Farm Bill, the National Farm Bill, one of the most important pieces Congress passes in 5 years. And Susie Flores, a sugar kelp operator down in Stonington, talked about how important the Farm to School program, the Connecticut Kids for Connecticut, or Connecticut Grown for Connecticut Kids program, was to her operation, not only to give her a guaranteed contract, but to help expand her market and introduce students to what she does as a kelp farmer, but also how you can use kelp in school cafeterias and in your lunch menus.
Well, the children, I visited with Chris Murphy a couple of years ago. The sound school had federal dollars for working with shellfish. And I know that Massachusetts has a very robust, or at least they say so, they did 3 years ago, program of something like, see the school, or, including the fisheries in the school curriculum. So, no, I know Chris has been really good on insurance with the shellfish. Thank you. And I may want to chase that a little bit, because we are a shoreline community in New Haven. I certainly would never want to shadow Stonington.
Representative, if you want to do an oyster tasting in a local school, I'm there.
I certainly don't. I know there's a lot of competition. We've got Norwalk, we've got Stonington. Now we have, I think Stratford is getting in the game. So I know our children would be really interested though. And so that would be great. Thank you. I know I left out Milford. I'm sorry. Problem.
Representative Dillon, that was an outstanding question. Thank you for asking that. Mr. Commissioner, I think we're done at 12:15, if I'm not mistaken. Taylor, or is that correct?
Yes, you're correct. Sorry, I'm multitasking right now.
No problem. I know you are. You work very hard. I just want to remind you, Mr. Commissioner, that we have just under 15 minutes, and maybe we'll really would like if you could come back if you have more to share. Well, I'm sure you are going to have more to share. So go ahead, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you for that, and we can jump back to FMNP, or if we only have 15 minutes, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to open it up to the members for any other questions, or we can continue going through our written responses.
Well, I don't see any hands up, Mr. Commissioner. So if you can continue, I think that'll be appropriate.
Gotcha, will do. So our farmers market nutrition program, we have two buckets of funding here, and actual multiple types of funding streams. Two programs. We have the WIC, Women, Infant, Children program, and the Seniors Farmers Market Nutrition Program. So the WIC program is distributed by the local WIC offices to eligible families. And the Seniors is distributed through the Seniors program. Vouchers are distributed through community centers across the state. Both have congressionally authorized dollars associated with them. Both have associated state dollars associated with them. Actually, if you can go back up to the, that's okay. We also have ARPA dollars that have been dedicated to both WIC and Seniors. And recently, we were awarded a USDA grant for an electronic version of WIC programming. One of 8 organizations that received that across the nation, and then an additional allocation for an electronic seniors programming. So we have 4 funding streams for these 2 programs, and we have them available and we try to keep them as aligned as possible. One of the questions that we had during the public hearing was, could we expand and include more protein sources in either of the programs? It would have to be through the state-funded allocations. The answer would be yes, we could, but we've got to be careful recognizing that proteins are generally more expensive. And so we want to make sure that we're finding that balance of how individuals are able to spend their dollars. Also want to point out that working with the legislature, we're able to increase the state-funded allocations for each individual booklet that's distributed, expanding and extending purchasing power for these families and individuals that receive them, but also for the farmers that are providing these goods. That we're essentially increasing the market for these farmers at these farmers market programs. WIC recipients, if they use all of their program vouchers and dollars, they can go back to the WIC office and continue to receive additional booklets during the course of the farmers market season. So usually those expire around November 1st. So that's a great way to extend the purchasing power, increase the nutritional access for families, and again, support Connecticut farmers.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. That's excellent news. But we do have a question. Rep. Nuccio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Representative, please forgive me. Am I pronouncing your name right?
It all depends. If you're Italian, it's Nuccio. If you're not, it's Nuccio. I'm Irish. I married it. You can say it however you want.
Thank you, Representative. I just want to make sure I get it right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm not particularly picky about it. Good morning, Brian. How are you? Well, I should say good afternoon now. I just have one question. I sent over some questions for your area, and thank you guys very much for replying back to them. The only question that I have outstanding is regarding the lapse dollars. You guys just referenced the big comptroller's report, and I was hoping you guys could just provide if you had any lapse dollars on 6/30 of last year, and if so, what were those lapse dollars in? And then do you anticipate any in the upcoming current fiscal year?
Well, we'll certainly do our best to spend down the dollars and maximize the distribution of those dollars that we have in the budget. So I wouldn't anticipate that we have any dollars that will lapse, but there may be some in the end. And I'll double check with anything that from the end of last fiscal year that lapsed. We'll work with our fiscal analysts at DES and OPM.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You guys are pretty small. I wouldn't imagine that you really have many left, but if you do, I would just like to understand what they are. Otherwise, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Okay, Commissioner.
All right, well, back into FMNP programming. As I mentioned, we have expanded to include chicken eggs in 2021. That is generally an affordable and accessible source of protein. And if we wanted to expand expand into additional proteins, we would have to only use the state allocated dollars as the federal dollars prohibit that. But then we'd have to balance the need for seniors and families on WIC to understand what the difference is between a state funded program and a federally funded program. The booklets look the same, act the same, can be used for most of the same way. So we want to minimize confusion, but we also want to make sure that we're balancing and recognizing that proteins generally are more expensive. Buying cuts of meat at a farmer's market is generally more expensive than fruits and vegetables. But again, that's a decision that can be made in a policy decision that we would need legislation for. How have we promoted this program? We work closely with our distribution networks, whether it be through the WIC offices or the community centers. In previous years, WIC has the WIC program has done text messaging to their clientele, letting them know that this program is available and they can come to the WIC office to pick up their vouchers. We have also worked through the Healthy Food Collaborative. We work with all of our farmers markets that are certified to accept WIC and senior FMNP program participants. And we have done a number of billboards, posters, and other information that we distribute at the distribution locations or where somebody could pick up those vouchers, or at the actual farmers market. A lot of the farmers markets that do take advantage of and participate in the FMNP program usually have a booth at the natural entrance to the market, where individuals can ask questions and get information. Those are generally volunteer booths, market masters that help people navigate through that system. That also, and this is a separate program that we funded through ARPA with End Hunger Connecticut, but our SNAP doubling program, where we were able to expand the program they run at 36 farmers markets across the state, where essentially an individual can use their SNAP benefit. They swipe their card at the booth for, say, $10 or $20, depending on how the program is set up at the individual market. And then they get $40, $20 or $40 in purchasing power. So they get coupons or vouchers or tokens or something else in order to expand their purchasing power. Generally at those markets, they are also Farmers Market Nutrition Program participants. And so somebody at the booth can help people understand how they can use and maximize these benefits that are available to them. So those are a couple of ways that we promote the program. And I think those are pretty much the major points regarding urban ag, farmers market nutrition programming, our diversity efforts, farm to school. Mr. Chairman, I know we're coming up against the last couple minutes here, but I'd be happy to, again, open it up or answer any additional questions or take comments.
I'll ask the membership, legislators, do you have any questions for Commissioner or his team? Seeing no hands being raised, Mr. Commissioner, I think what's going to have to happen is that we're going to have to digest this information a little bit more and reach out to you. I see Pat, Representative Dillon shaking her head. Yeah, digest this information a little bit more and reach out to you to have you back again.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And Kaylee Royston is available to answer any questions or provide any additional feedback. So please, for individual legislators, don't hesitate to reach out to Kaylee, and we'll do our best to get you the information as soon as we possibly can. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and all of your interest in the Department of Agriculture, the agriculture industry, and the work that we do to support Connecticut's farmers and families.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. You guys do some outstanding and some exciting work, so we appreciate it, and we like working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, Taylor?
Yes.
All right, so we've come to the end. And before we log off, though, we started right away, and I didn't get a chance to say hello to or give our ranking members or Senator Hartley a chance to say anything. So I'll first go to the ranking members. Senator Gordon, would you like to make any comments?
He was on earlier. I think he has been departed.
Yeah, I think so. There's some more committee meetings going on. I have to jump on education, actually. Representative DiCaprio, I'll give you an opportunity if you'd like to make some comments.
No, I just wanted to say this was informative, I think, but I think we were a little challenged at one of the, hearing for one of the sessions, but we have to look over the materials that were sent, this morning and yesterday. All right, but thank you, everybody.
You're welcome, Representative. Senator Hartley, would you like to have any comments, or you have any comments to say? She's probably multitasking as well. Okay, well, members, we have our work cut out. Prior years, we've done a great job in conservation and development and submitting outstanding reports to our chairs, Senator Alston and Representative Walker. And so we'll get it done, and we'll have fun doing it. Taylor, I think our next time meeting, is it actually tomorrow?
Let me double check. I don't see one for tomorrow, but I don't. If you see one, I need to fix my calendar then.
Oh, I might be mistaken. I know in some of our initial conversations we had talked about tomorrow, but
I think it's next Monday.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
I see it Monday at 10 o'clock.
Monday at 10 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay, and who do we have Monday at 10?
Let's see. Marcy might know better than me.
Yeah, I can help you with that. One moment.
Yeah, I see DOL at 10 and Office of Workforce Strategy at 11:30.
That's correct.
All
Teamwork.
right. Work makes the dream work.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you everyone for your work today and putting in the time. We have time now to read the stuff that was sent to us, and have a great rest of the week and a great weekend. And we'll see everyone on Monday at 10.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.